So first up we have the DS Lite. This thing is pretty cheap. It can play DS games and Game Boy Advance games. It cannot play original Game Boy games or Game Boy Color games. But if you have a flash cart or a multi-cart, you can play those. You can find this thing anywhere from $28 to $40, and the only way to get ROMs on it is through a flash cart. Next up is the DSi. It is smaller and lighter than the DS Lite. It plays the same DS games, and it does not play Game Boy games natively. It's around the same price range, and I'd recommend going for this if you have a flash cart. Next up is the 3DS. It plays DS games and 3DS games natively. This one is pretty hard to custom firmware, but once you get it, you have a lot of games. If you find a good deal, you can find one under 30, and sometimes they go up to 80. Next up is the Game Boy Advance SP. This plays Game Boy Advance games and original Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games. Keep in mind there are two different models. I have the AGS 101 with the backlit screen, but there's also the more common AGS 001 with a frontlit screen. For the normal model, you can find it anywhere from $20 to $40, and the AGS 101 is going to be around $50 to $90. Next up is the Game Boy Micro. This thing is tiny and is also really expensive. It does not play original Game Boy or Game Boy Color games unless you also get a flash cart, which is around $40. You can find this thing from about $100 to $200. I do not recommend it because it's just so expensive. Next up is one of my favorites, the PSP. This thing has a massive homebrew community. I'd recommend going for the 3000 model because it has a nicer screen, and if you find a good deal, you can get one of these from $40 to $70. But if you're looking at ones with special colors, they're going to be a bit more expensive. The Pro Duo to micro SD card adapters are very cheap, and this is one of the easiest systems to mod. Next up is definitely my favorite, the Psp Go. It is basically just a small PSP with the sliding mechanism, and you have all of your PSP games. There is no UMD drive, but not a big deal if you're going to mod it anyway. I definitely think the PSP has a very large library of emulators and games. These are more expensive than PSPs because there was so little of them made, so you can find them around $100 to $150. Next up is the PS Vita. I definitely think this one shines for its own games, but it can also play every PSP game. I mean, it has its own Call of Duty game and its own Uncharted game. You can find these around $80 to $150, and it is fairly easy to mod them. So overall, the one I would recommend the most is the PSP, because it is so cheap and so easy to mod, very portable, and one of my favorite systems. If you have some more, I would definitely go for a Psp Go, and if you want some newer games, I would go for a PS Vita. If you want to play Game Boy games natively, the cheapest way to do this is a DS Lite. I don't really recommend the 3DS just because of how complicated it is to mod, but if you're down for a challenge and you want to play 3DS games, then go ahead. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe. 94% of my viewers aren't subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.